Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Now, this dude you might not have heard of. I've never heard of you, but everyone's heard of you, if you know what I mean. Jeff Hoffman, what's cracking with you?
Absolutely thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. Most people are going, well, who's Jeff Hoffman? Well, number one, you've heard of companies he's been involved with. He's one of the original bigwigs of Priceline. That's your claim to fame, really? Priceline?
Hopefully that's not my claim to fame, actually. Hopefully it's the work we're doing now. Yeah, a lot more of the humanitarian work, but...
Yeah? See, but, most people be like, yeah, that's what I did. You're worried about what are you doing now. I like that. Yeah. But Priceline, folks, let me just read this a little bit because I had a few questions as I was glancing. You're an award-winning global entrepreneur, proven CEO, worldwide motivational speaker, best-selling author, Hollywood film producer, a producer of Grammy award-winning jazz album, the executive producer of an Emmy award-winning television show. You've been in multiple startups, founder of multiple startups. Priceline, obviously, everyone's heard of that. Has been the CEO of both public and private companies, has served as a senior executive in many capacities, and you're definitely a part of a number of well-known successful startups, including Priceline, Booking.com, UBid, and more. And now, basically, you do a lot of other things, but the one I'm most interested in talking to you about is the Jeff Hoffman Advisory. Why? Well, because you're out there helping other companies blow up and avoid situations. And that's what dropping bombs is all about. We're just going to shoot the shit.
All right.
And drop bombs on problem situations and probably tell stories because I'm sure you have a lot of them.
But that's kind of the way I talk and learn anyway, through stories.
Well, tell me about touring with Justin Timberlake. Like, what was that about?
So I've been doing tech companies my whole life. I'm a longtime serial entrepreneur. I had one job. I'm a software engineer by trade, Brad, but
so you know how to do
that. No, actually, it turns out I sucked at it. But I did get the degree. In fact, it's a funny story because my first startup ever, I had an engineering job. I got a software engineering degree. My parents said, go get a good job at a good company, get a good paycheck. And I did that because that's what you do. That's what every parent tells every kid. People listening now are telling their kids, go to school, get a good education, you'll get a good job at a good company. I did that. But you know what I didn't have, Brad? I did not have a good life. I hated my freaking job every day. I stared at the clock just wondering when I could go home and looked out the window of my little cubicle. Well, window was far away from my little cubicle. And I thought, is this it? This is my whole rest of my life? And I couldn't do it. So I walked out one day and I just quit, unemployed, completely broke, 20-something years old. And my first startup was actually when you go, I went to, by the way, I'm not even remotely answering the question you asked, but I'm going to continue.
Keep going.
I bought an airline ticket to go see a mentor. Because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, not for money, for freedom. It turns out money is part of freedom. But I wasn't focused on money. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to ever have to take the kind of shit I was taking from the boss I was working for and the insane things he said. And if I spoke up, one day I said, that doesn't even make sense. And he said, Hoffman, does your paycheck make sense? And I had to go, yes, sir. And he said, then shut your mouth. And I was like, that feeling.
I've said that before.
That's the feeling that every time I felt like quitting my startup, all I had to do was play that video back in my head, and I would get up again in the morning and keep on pushing.
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't everybody though? Because like that's how I am.
But it's a DNA thing.
Well, I know, but why wouldn't everyone think the same way? That's the way to think right there.
I don't know. I hope they do. I hope that's why we're doing this show.
You know, I
hope people get inspired to think that way.
I got kicked out of my house at 16 because I didn't want to mow the lawn. It was just mowing the lawn, but like, don't tell me what to do. I don't like.
That's why
I don't like it.
That's why I said it's a DNA thing.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I couldn't deal with it either. And so the option. By the way, I also hated the company I worked for. I felt like the company. I think my boss. I'm going to be really honest with you. I think my boss was racist, sexist, everything. If you weren't a white male, you weren't intelligent, and I couldn't stand the guy. And one day I thought, instead of complaining about the company you work for, why don't you just go create the company you wish you worked for, right? And when I got that idea, the bomb job, when I got that idea.
Those are coveted.
I was, okay, thank you. I'm keeping a little count here to see how I do. When I got that idea, I was like, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll just create the company I wish I worked for, a company where there's no race, there's no ethnicity, there's no gender, there's no age. All I care about is, that's a good idea, let's do it. Right? What is the merit? What is your contribution to the team and the world around you? And I was like, I could just make that company. And in theory, that would work, but I'll go test it. And likewise, creating the job that you wish you had. So I'll back up once more. I grew up in the Arizona desert, single mom, 4 kids. Nobody ever went anywhere or had any goals of the people I was with. Not judging them, right? This isn't right or wrong, it's DNA. But all the people I grew up with in my little Arizona town were like, I'm good. I'm just going to be here the rest of my life. Everyone I grew up with still lives in the same little area. Not judging them, like I said. But I had this plan that I was going to go see the world, right? And I literally had a plan that I was going to visit. I know this sounds a little crazy at the time, but I was going to have dinner with 50 different families in their homes in 50 different countries before I die. And this came, Brad, from a quote I read from Mark Twain, where he said, travel is the fatal enemy of prejudice, right? You're probably less surprised that I was in the travel biz now. I felt like what Mark Twain was telling me personally somehow, even though he was dead, was that if I could go out and see the world and break bread with people who don't look like me, I'd be a better person. And I was like, I want to be that man one day, right? That actually listens, understands. And so that was my goal. And when I told my friends, I'm going to go see the world, I'm going to visit 50 countries, and I'm going to have dinner with 50 families in 50 countries and 50 cultures before I die, all they did was laugh. I was like, why is that funny? And they're like, dude, no one's going to pay you to do that. There's no job called fly around the world and visit families. And I said, fine, then I'll make that job. So back to where I was when I quit my job and I was broke, I was in the airport and I missed my flight to see my mentor because the line to check in back then was so long. And I was like, wait a minute, and this story is really about intent. You have to have in your head the intent. What is the life you want? What is the goal you're trying to achieve, right? If intent is in your mind and you're thinking about those things, I have to create a job where I can travel. I have to pay my bills, and I want to create the company that I really want to work for. And because I was always thinking about those things, when the moment came, I didn't miss it. Otherwise, you don't see it if you're not thinking about those things. I literally had that written on my bathroom mirror. So every day when I start the day, I would be reminded of what I'm supposed to do today. And every day when I went to bed, I would ask myself, what did you do today to get any closer to the life you wanted to live, not the life you're living? And so when that moment occurred, I saw it and I said, this is my moment. So I went home and did my first startup. And today, if you go to airports, most anywhere in the world, and you check in on those kiosks, that was my first product.
Really?
I designed a kiosk, eventually started stumbling through. And now I actually, surprisingly, am going to answer your question. I started stumbling my way through 20-something years old, don't have a dime in my pocket, no idea what I'm doing, never launched a company, had one job, and I sucked at it. And so now I'm starting a company. But stumbling my way through, making every mistake 3 times, eventually I actually figured it out. And today, check-in kiosks are in airports all over the world. And I was not focused on money. I was focused on my goals. Freedom was one of them, which takes money. And the company made millions of dollars. In fact, I sold it when I was 20-something years old, and we sold it for millions of dollars. But that wasn't the cool part. The cool part was my job every week was to fly to a different country to install kiosks in airports. So guess what I did? Installed the kiosk, then I toured the country, then I went to the next one. So I wound up visiting families in 97 countries as my current count. But the crazy part was I got paid to do that. And my friends are like, how are you doing this? And I said, here's an even crazier thing. It's my job. And they're like, how'd you get that job? I said, I didn't. I made that job. And around it, I built the company that I wished that I worked for. So that was all part of intentionality. So along the way, with all the blood, sweat, and tears, there would be days, Brad, that I would sit there and think, the mistake I just made, somebody knew that I shouldn't turn left here. Somebody's already made this mistake. Where are those people now? So that's why, all the way back to why we launched our Jeff Hoffman advisory group. We were blessed enough to for me to be part of companies like Priceline, that today is literally a $100 billion company. It's in 190 countries. I had another company called UBID that became a multi-billion-dollar company. What I did was look back and say, what are all the things we finally figured out how to do right so you could scale a company? So what our team does now is we advise companies, like we're in town today to advise a local company called Hey Yep. It's an instant video chat company. We advise companies on what do you have to do if you want to go from good, what kind of growth? Linear growth. If you want to go from marketing is linear growth, right? There's scale is this exponential growth. If you really want to scale and hit that 10x exponential growth, there are a list of things you as a company have to get right. And that's what we do. We sit down with companies, and I've taken everything I've ever learned from every company we've ever built, and now we just made a commitment to sharing it with people. It's not just from my companies, Brad. It's from all the other people I've worked with that I've had a chance. Some of my business heroes became friends, guys like Steve Wozniak and stuff that are friends of mine that I've had a chance to learn from. So it's the sum total of everything we've ever learned about how to grow a building, business, including Priceline, including UBIT, including other people's companies.
What are those things?
They start with, the first one was interesting because when you and I were chatting before we went live here, it's something you actually said as well. It's all about, when you were talking about your CTO, it's all about surrounding yourself with people smarter than you. Step one is realize you're never as smart as you think you are. Quit being blinded by your own brilliance. The key to success is not thinking that you're the one running everything. It's finding people smarter than you in every area that isn't your strength. Every one of us is actually only good at one thing. I have never hired an engineer who also does all our taxes, writes our legal contracts, and writes my marketing copy. It doesn't happen. Engineers, lawyers.
Yeah, but we've tried.
Yeah,
haven't we?
We have tried that. So I realized that my thing was marketing, and I need people smarter than me in every other area. I'll run the marketing meeting, but I don't really run the company. The smart people run the company, and they call me when they need something. And so what I discovered is leadership, and I don't know, I already know there's a quote somewhere. It's probably on your wall in your office somewhere. There's a quote somewhere about leaders don't create followers, they create other leaders, right? And so my job was to go find amazing people and build them up until they're smarter and better than me, and then get out of the way. And when I started leading by serving, by saying, I'm just going to go get, your job is to build the company where the best people in your whole industry all want to work for you and nobody ever wants to leave. If you spend your time doing that and not running the company all the time, you'll win. So that's what that was the first lesson, is I discovered that my success came when I realized I can't do it myself anyway. And I started spending time out of the office hunting for talent. And I'd bring people in and I'd say, sometimes they'd come in my office and ask me a question. And I'd be like, dude, you're like 100 times smarter than me. Why are you asking me a question? The whole reason I hired you is because I don't know the answer and you do. So go back to your desk, figure it out, and tell me once you got the answer. I focused more on the culture and the environment. So those people didn't ever want to work anywhere else. I had one of my companies I sold, probably one of my proudest achievements ever. I found out when we sold the company, in all the years from the day we started the company to the day we sold it, nobody that worked for me ever quit. And I went back, I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life, and I don't know how. And I started asking people, why don't you guys ever quit? And they're like, do you want us to quit? And I said, no, I just want to understand, what did I somehow even accidentally do right that no one ever wants to leave here? And they said, glad you asked, here's the list. And I said, this list is my new job description. Running the company is not your only job. Taking care of the most amazing people so they never want to leave you is the most important job. There's the first one.
Yeah, I'm going to bomb that only because I agree. My problem is I can't find all these wonderful people, and maybe it's because I think I'm so brilliant.
Okay.
Like I can't wait for someone to show up and do it better than me, and I'm looking for them, but they never arrive.
Okay.
And I get frustrated, and I'm like, dude, this isn't rocket science. So tell me, how do I find those?
How come I don't have a bomb button?
Because I do the bombs.
Damn it.
I decide what the bombs are. I'm the decider.
But you're so right on with what you just said. So thank you. I owe you one bomb. So here's the thing. That is such a perfect question to ask, because I learned that lesson the hard way. When we are trying to find, and I'll tell you the answer, and then I'll back up and explain it. The answer is talent doesn't find you. You have to hunt for talent. And I didn't know that. And so here is the deal. We recruit talent. Here's a big reality. Talent is never, the most talented people in the industry are never going to walk into your office and say, hey, Brad, I want to 10X your company. They're never going to come in your office. By the way, they're never going to respond to a job posting. You know why? You might get lucky.
They're not looking.
Right. Every once in a while. But who responds to a job posting? People that lost theirs. So you know who the most talented people in the industry, they're not looking for a job. They are gainfully employed and everyone else is trying to hire them. And they're not going to wander into your office. So one day it occurred to me, they will never find me. I will find them. So I'm going to give you the real example of what I did. So my lesson to the listeners is I schedule talent days where I would tell my team, don't call me Friday, I'm out talent hunting. So here's one of my talent days. I need someone to run HR. One day, 2 employees were having an argument, and all my team's like, I think they're going to fight. You better run down there. And I was like, run down there and do what? And they're like, I don't know. It's your company. And I was like, I don't know how to I'm not a psychologist. And they're like, you hired them. I said, I'm not an HR person. And they're like, dude, it's your company. You're the CEO. You hired them. It's your problem. And I was like, I have no idea what to do next, right? So I started thinking, I'm ready now to hire someone to do HR. But I want an epic, talented person, and that person's never going to come in the door. So the first thing I asked myself, I asked people around, where do HR people hang out? Because they're not coming into my office and they're not answering my ad unless they are unemployed HR people. And somebody said SHRM. I said, is that a word? They said, no, it's an acronym. So I Googled it. It's the Society of Human Resource Managers. So I went to SHRM's website. And on the website, Brad, it said, don't miss this year's annual conference. Register. I think it was here in Vegas. So I bought a ticket and I went. And when I got there, everybody had a badge that said what job you had in HR. There were probably 1,000 people and me. And people came up and they said, what do you do in HR? I went to the conference. And I said, I'm not in HR. And they said, what are you? I said, I'm a CEO. And they said, well, everybody here is in HR. Why did you come? What are you doing here? And I said, I'm here shooting fish in a barrel. I said, there's 1,000 of you and 1 in me, and I need an HR person. And they were like, that's pretty smart. And so then I was thinking, who do I hire? And a thought occurred to me. When you go to a conference, who are the speakers? They're the experts in the industry. There were 9 speakers, so I acquired 9 targets. I circled the names. Then I looked to see who was the keynote speaker. And it was this year's winner of the National HR Manager of the Year Award. So I was like, now I know my real target. Her name was Angela. So I went to the keynote luncheon. I listened to her speak. I waited till everybody talked to her, and then I followed her. And I said, hey, Angela, my name's Jeff. And she looked at my badge, and she said, you're not even in HR. What are you doing here? I said, I'm not, but I'm a CEO. I'm building a really cool company, and I need someone to run HR. She said, like, I have the greatest job in the world. I have no interest in leaving. And I said, what if I gave you a piece of the company? And she turned around. And I said, do you own a piece of your company? She said, no, I work for a company. And I said, do you want to own a piece? Are you making them rich? The same story that we were talking about before. And she's like, no. And I said, here's my number. And she said, can we just talk now? She ran HR for my next 4 companies.
What if she would have sucked, though?
She didn't. It could happen.
What if she was a bitch?
She also wasn't.
But what if she was, and now she's sitting away with 10% of your company?
Okay.
Like,
oh, no, but I made that. That was earned out over performance. I didn't just give away.
Well, that's why I want to point that out, because a lot of times people hear this, and then they go, hey, you want 10%? And they're like, sure. And they take it, and then it turns out it's ugly, and then they're like, frickin' Jeff told me to give away a piece of my company.
We just lectured somebody on that literally today, right here in Las Vegas, and told them percentages are performance-based. You earn your piece over time and over performance. We didn't give it away. But
well, I told you I gave my partner his, and earlier I gave 2 other friends of mine a piece. Like in the beginning, it wasn't even my partner. It was me and my 2 friends, and I gave a third. I'm going to write a book one day called 66%, because I gave away 66%, and it was my company. Why? Well, because we're friends. Duh. But anyway, I had to buy him out. Cost me millions of dollars. Long story short, though, I put a clause in my bylaws that said I have a super vote, which means my vote's worth more than yours, period. I don't care if I own 1 share. It's worth more than all yours.
That was very smart.
And again, I just put it in there, and they both tried to toss me out like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And when they got to those bylaws with the lawyer said, uh-oh.
Because
that
was a pretty good moment.
Yeah, because they realized, oh, you're screwed. So I fired them as employees because I was paying them and doing stupid shit, but I obviously couldn't take those shares back. So I wish I would have known you, because they probably wouldn't have gotten those shares, because they revealed themselves as pricks.
Yeah, and that takes a little time to figure out.
Yeah.
And then you have to, part of that, I'm glad you brought that up as well, because part of that is we don't ever hire resumes. We hired a culture entirely, right? In my company, we'd bring someone in, real story, we had a guy come in for a whole day worth of interviews lined up, but I would always intentionally tell people, don't bring him back to me yet, send him into the break room where everyone's having breakfast and coffee. And I would have my employees mingle with them and hang out and have coffee. They'd come out 15 minutes later, They're shaking their head. And they said, what? And they said, he's not one of us. Cancel the interviews. So we didn't interview him. The next day, this crazy high-energy Hispanic girl came in. She had a whole day worth of interviews. She went in the break room. They came out of breakfast, and my employees are like, we'll interview her if you want, but just hire her. She's one of us. So my question to everybody listening is, what does one of us mean? And if you can't answer that, you don't have a culture. And so what I learned was from day one, I draw a picture of what one of us is. What are the values, the beliefs? What are the kind of people I want around me every day? And if you don't match those values, I don't care how talented you are. So one day, one of our values was treating all human beings with the same level of dignity, respect, whether they're in the stuff that I do now, I literally have days where I'm sitting with presidents and prime ministers of country and royalty. And the next day we're with kids in an inner city school in the hood. Right. And so the rule is we will treat those children the same way I would have just treated the king or the queen. That's a fundamental law of our company. That's our culture.
You literally curtsy and bow to children in the inner city?
You had to kiss their hand even. It was weird.
Crazy.
So I had a sales guy named Paul. And Paul outsold everybody in my company 3-1. And one day I called Paul in and I said, you got 30 days to rewrite your DNA. I don't know what to tell you, man. Otherwise, you're out of here. And he said, why? But he said, you're joking. You can't fire me. I outsell everyone 3-1. You can't afford to fire me. I said, no, I'll fire you. He said, Jeff, I outsell everyone here 3-1. I said, Paul, I listen to the way you talk to people. I don't like the way you talk to our receptionist. And he's like, she's just the receptionist. I said, strike 2. You want to keep going? There's nobody that's just a receptionist. That is somebody's wife, mother, sister, right, daughter, whatever. We don't treat people that way around here. And he rolled his eyes like, I'm outselling everyone 3-1 and I'm in trouble because I wasn't nice enough to the receptionist. I said, 30 days. 30 days, I called him back in and said, you can leave now. And he laughed. And I said, being fired's funny? And he said, you're not going to fire me. I outsell everybody 3-1. I said, true, but you out-asshole everybody 10-1. You can leave now. And I walked him out the door. And my employee said, how are we going to recover from that? He was the best salesperson. Within 90 days, our sales were up, and I hadn't replaced him. And I asked the crew, why are our sales up? And they said, because you removed the big dark cloud. You took the asshole out of the mix, and everybody's energy is better, and the mood is brighter, and we're just performing. Our productivity is higher. You have to stick to a culture, but you have to have one first. So you were right. Angela could have turned out to be a bitch, but probably not, because the series of questions we ask before we hire people are around culture, not resume. We're pretty sure you're one of us or we don't hire you. Sure, we get it wrong sometimes, but not much if your culture is well defined.
Mm-hmm. What about the corporate PC stuff? Because like one of us, like believe it or not, we have clients that came in here and like I've literally put gigantic dildos in their luggage so they get stopped at the airport with a big dildo. Now that's one of us, but apparently someone worked here one time and they couldn't believe I did it. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's funny. We do that type of stuff. So somebody put a dildo in their lunch bucket or whatever they call the little igloo things. I didn't tell them to do it. And I don't even know where the supply of dildos were, but there were apparently a bunch of dildos supply. So someone stuck one in their lunchbox and I got sued.
Oh, you got sued?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got sued. I'm like, you ain't one of us. What if one of us is like against the law somehow?
Right,
like you're not supposed to tell like dirty jokes. Where's the PC come into play?
I think we're ready for the next question.
Well, I want PC because like around here, I want to be able to put dildos in people's lunch buckets because it's funny. But I don't want to get sued. So like, how do you find people that wouldn't be offended by that?
But I will tell you exactly how. I'll give you another real story. Now that you asked that, you just made me remember a day that I kind of had to figure that out, because you have to know what that list is. When you define what one of us is, what are the limits? So one day, somebody was unsure whether something was cool to do. It was not, in fact, putting a dildo in a lunchbox, but they wanted to know if something was cool to do. And they said, do you have a copy of the employee policy manual? I said, seriously, you think I have an employee policy manual? And they said, well, we don't know if this is okay. I said, get everybody into the conference room right now. True story. I got everyone in the conference room and I told everyone to take out a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle of it. And they did. I said, on the left side, I want you to write down everything anybody's ever done to you at any job you ever had that upset you, made you feel disrespected, undervalued, quit your job, hate your job, write them all down. What are things people do that make you hate your job and not want to work there or feel undervalued or disrespected? Write the left side. Everybody did. I said, on the right side, I want you to write the opposite. What are all the things that have ever happened to you by any boss or company that made you say, I love working here. They respect me, they value me, and I don't want to work anywhere else. Write that list down. Then I passed out thumbtacks. And they said, what is this? I was being dramatic. And I said, it's our employee policy manual, stick it on the wall. I said, if I ever catch you doing anything on the left, you're fired because you said you hate it when people do that to you. And once a month, I better see you pick something from the right and go do that to another person. One day I was walking down the hall and I was following one of my employees and I watched her go to her office, look at her list, go down, pick something off the wall. She was in marketing, walk into engineering, and ask one of our product engineers if she could take him and his family to dinner as a thank you for building such great products because it makes marketing easier. And I was like, yes, I was so proud. And they would constantly look at the left side and say, whatever we as a team wrote on the left side, we don't do that here because we all agreed that's the stuff that bothers us. If it's not on that list and you didn't bring it up, it's okay. It wasn't rocket science. I just asked them, let's agree what the limits are. Let's agree what the good stuff is. And let's just do that. This shouldn't be rocket science. So that's how we got around that. I knew where the edges were.
Well, then how come you didn't do the dildo thing? It wasn't on those lists.
It wasn't on
which made it okay.
We did, in today's world, some of my companies, you would have had all kinds of complaints, ridiculous complaints.
I know, but are they one of you if they're complaining?
No. If they're calling the other person aside and saying, that bothered me, and here's why it bothered me, can we talk about it? They're one of us.
Yeah.
If they're filing a complaint, that's not how we solve problems around here. So you're right. That wasn't our method. The kind of people I hire, if they got an issue, they will come right up to your face and say, I want you to know why I would ask you to not do this again. But they wouldn't file a lawsuit because somebody did it once.
Yeah, because they were looking for an opportunity to get paid.
You are correct. That's not our kind of
Which
people.
means someone slid by the old interview process.
Yes.
And that happens a lot.
It happens.
You should read my employee manual. I wrote it myself. It's pretty funny. Manny, you've read it, haven't you? It says point blank, you might be a good actor. So, you might sneak in here. So the first 90 days is just an audition. And it goes in and just basically tells them, only because when you have an audition, if this is a role, I can cast it. And it gets you around some stupid rules. Because I believe in culture more so than ever now. And those are great ways to develop it. But my stumbling blocks have always been when I want a culture of cool, like you can joke with me. You can freaking say F if you're passionate about something. I'm not offended, but I can't allow it here, which means this isn't really my culture, is it? Just a company. So how do you infuse that culture to where it doesn't even matter anymore when it comes to HR shit? With common sense, of course. Obviously, you have a culture you're beating people. That's not a good culture.
Yeah, I mean, those are.
But if I worked for your organization and put a dildo in her lunchbox because it's all funny and we're all laughing, and you heard about it, am I fired? Especially if you're getting sued. But I'm one of you.
Okay, but one of those small list of things that I put, mine are on the wall, right? The cultural things. So every day you can look up. One of ours said, humanity first, meaning people over profits. So they can glance at the wall, they're talking to a customer, and they can say, just give them their money back, even though the customer's wrong. Yeah. And they know I'm not going to be mad because it says on the wall, let's build long-term relationships, not short-term profits. And they don't have to ask me, and they know they won't get in trouble. Along those same lines, one of ours is mutual respect. And so if somebody in the office does say, I know it's not up there, but the dildo thing bothers me, then mutual respect. If you're a person that says, I don't care if it bothers you, I'm doing it anyway, you're not my culture. You are out of here.
Have you ever been on?
If you say, I hear you, I thought it was funny, but I get that you don't, it'll never happen again, we're done.
That's called a great culture.
That has always been our culture. Mutual respect is important. And if you really think you put yourself above everyone else, then you're going to say, I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's funny. That's not my culture. My culture is, you come first and I listen to you and I see that it bothers you and I respect that. So just because it bothers you, I will suppress my ego and I won't do it again. And those are the kind of people we hire. And if we think
that's kind of people we should be looking for.
They're hard
problem
to find.
solvers.
Yes, they're hard to find, but you got to put the time in to find them.
Yeah.
I think the biggest chunk of time for me as a leader has always been talent. It's always been finding talent, motivating and retaining talent. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to get the best people in the whole industry and how to keep them, and less time actually running the company because they're smarter than me anyway.
Now, have you ever wrote a book?
I have written one book. It's called Dildos in the Lunchbox. It did really, really well in Vegas. I have written one book. It's called Scale. And it's proven principles to scale a business. And it's the short version but it's a very how-to. It's not a fun and exciting book. It's a very practical, here's a list of exercises to do to prepare your company for massive scale. It's the lessons we learn. I wrote it with a co-author, a friend of mine named David Finkel, and we put together this guide on how to scale a company, but it's literally just called Scale.
The other day I was asked how to scale companies because people assume, you
Sure.
asked me, I don't know, like, shit, I'm doing it right now. Hopefully I'll be able to answer someday. You've done it. So here's what I said. You critique or co-sign what I said. I said, if you want to scale a business, you got to focus on two things, people and technology, or those. Those is the only way. You have to focus on technology or people. Yes
Okay.
or no?
Yes, without a doubt, yes, but there's more.
See, folks, I'm right.
So
I'm always right.
it's not a yes. It's not a yes, but it's a yes and. You are absolutely right.
Okay.
We just talked about people. Technology, absolutely. Because again, the key to scale, entrepreneurs always brag about their work ethic. They think it's
and they say they made more than they did.
Always. But so do rappers, come to think of it. Yeah. Most rappers, their whole net worth is hanging around their neck. That's a different.
Not Christmas
That's
rappers.
for a different podcast, however.
Not present rappers at the mall.
No. What were we talking about?
Scale.
Okay, yeah. I remember.
How enough about me. Okay. What do you think about me? No, I was talking about how I was right, because I inherently just try to simplify things, and usually that is right. Everyone
wins.
Complicates shit.
Simple wins.
So you've scaled. I'm scaling. So my thought was, I want your opinion on whether I said was correct. People and technology, you focus on those in order to scale.
Yes. Here's why technology is so important. What I was saying was entrepreneurs brag about the fact that they work 1 million hours a week.
Yeah.
I work 24/7. I'm an entrepreneur. Working 24/7, spoiler alert, working 24/7 is not a badge of honor. It's a badge of inefficiency. You know what I used to sit and think when my entrepreneur friends were saying, I'm an entrepreneur, I work all the time, I'm always at work, 24/7, Jeff, if you need me. I would sit there and think, how can I do in 2 days what it took everyone else in this room to do in 7? If I can figure that out, I'm the winner, not them.
Yep.
I'd rather be at the beach doing something else, whatever, the other 5 days while everyone else is working. It's not a badge of honor. A badge of honor is when you can do in 2 days what everyone else takes 5 to do. Or if you're going to work 5 or 6 days, you're doing 3 times what they are. The key to that is technology. Automate everything, outsource everything that's not your secret sauce. Just don't even do it. Focus on your secret sauce. What's the stuff you're best at? Outsource and automate the rest. That is a whole chapter of our book, Scale.
Well, if I was an entrepreneur listening to this, I'd go get Scale. I'm obviously going to buy it only because I'm very interested in scaling, and so should everybody else be that has a business.
Why are you doing it otherwise, right?
Yeah. We want to sell out. Like, did you ever sell out a Priceline?
Well, that one we took public. I've been a part of a couple IPOs, but yes, we've sold companies as well. And that
have you ever? What's the most money you've ever had in your bank?
I don't think I should.
It comes and goes, right? It doesn't stay there, but like, I'm waiting for the day that when I call and my bank says your balance is $1,500,000,000, and I'll record it and then I'll just play it all the time for people.
Okay, I'll listen to your recording. I will not post one of my own.
When I first had $2 million in my bank account, dude, I would call people and say, hold on a minute, and I'd three-way Bank of America and type in the numbers, and it would be like, your balance is $2,500,000, and people were like, holy shit, dude, is that your bank account? Even though, yes, it was the company, so I owed $2 million out, so it didn't really matter. But at the end of the day, I used to do that all the time.
I tell you a quick story though, because it's where my life changed. That when I first made money, I was young because I sold that first company, and it actually wound up being so. Okay, let's be real. The first thing I did was a little bit of a spending spree, right? All the stuff I never had my entire life, I bought it all at once, and then I was over it. I got over it really fast.
Yeah.
I actually built a house that my friends at the time called Chateau Hoffman. I was like, you guys design. I didn't even design it. All my friends did. And they're like, I was like, what on earth do I need a castle for? It just was empty marble floor. So for me, I did all that stuff, and then I stopped and said, that was it. That's literally, everybody's in the rat race for this because that can't be it. What am I going to do with the rest of my life, right? Everybody's honking their horn in traffic to be successful. And then I got there and I was like, that was fun for 10 minutes. And I'm not disrespecting, right, success or financial success or money, but it didn't take me long to get kind of drifting because I was like, now what? Money's less important once you have it. And working hard, I don't know, I just didn't know I was going to feel without goal. I was like driving hard every day when I had goals. And I was like, now I feel kind of, I don't know what to do next. And I was a little lost. My father said to me, I wish you hadn't made money till you were much older because it's changed. But that's not the real change. The real change was everyone around you. So quick story. I had a group of friends. We used to go to dinner all the time together as a group. After we sold the company, this was when I sold a company to American Express. We sold a company for millions of dollars, and then I came home. So it's like a lottery ticket. Now there's all these zeros in my bank account. There was nothing there. There was 1 0 before, and just the 0. And when I came back, I met with all my friends. We went out to dinner, Brad, and I was like, when the bill came, I picked it up and I said, thank you guys for being so tolerant. I've been gone for weeks and weeks. I missed dinners. And I said, let me buy. And I just grabbed the check. I said, I just thank you guys for putting up with me. I pick up the check and my friends grab the check and they're like, we don't need your fucking charity. Excuse my language, but that's exactly what they said. I was like, well, why are you swearing at me? And they're like, yeah, we get it. You're rich now. You can buy dinner. I said, guys, I wasn't buying you a house. I was just paying for dinner. And they're like, right, to make sure everyone knows that you're rich now. And I was like, geez, I don't know what the anger. 2 weeks later, we went out to dinner. I wasn't making that mistake again. The bill came and I said, what do I owe you guys? And they said, oh, let us get a calculator because we wouldn't want to take an extra dime of your precious money since that's all you care about. Damn. I was like, oh my God, what crime have I committed? And I realized that money it didn't change me. It changes everybody else around you a lot of time. And I was really upset, man. And I was sitting at home that night feeling bad. And I was like, everybody hates me now, or everybody wants something. Everybody comes out of the woodwork. I can't trust anybody anymore. They want something, or they just hate me, even though I didn't do anything wrong. And that was the night that I was sitting there thinking, man, my life was simpler. By the way, no one hates you when you're broke. When you're broke, they want to have a beer with you and commiserate, right? They hate you when you have success.
Dude, I just said it this morning on Clubhouse, or no, a previous podcast. People want you to do well, but they don't want you to do better than them.
That's exactly right.
And they're like undercover haters, even all around you. They're like, good job for you. And really, they're not real happy about it.
Undercover haters, right? There's also the straight up haters as well. And I'm sitting there thinking, why am I the one who feels bad when all I did was set really big goals, work really hard, take care of people, and actually achieve the stuff I said I was going to do? Yeah. And I'm the one sitting home alone tonight feeling really bad. And that was a life-changing moment because I actually said to myself that night, man, I kind of wish I'd never made this money because now my life's really complicated. And then I thought, that's not really fair. And so what happened that night, I was feeling bad because my friends were struggling and I wasn't. And they were all telling me, you don't understand. I was like, dude, I made the money like 16 days ago. How do I suddenly forgot the struggle, right, that we all came up in together? But anyway, I turned on my TV that night because I needed to mentally get away from feeling bad. And I shouldn't be feeling bad that I was successful. It's not right, blah, blah, blah. Called my dad. He said, they don't hate you. They're just jealous. And I was like, well, that's not making me feel any better, right? That none of my friends want to be around me now. So anyway, there was a story on TV, a news story, a bunch of women in a house crying. I stopped. I thought it was a murder. And it was in my town nearby. I said, I know where that house is. And I listened to the news story, and it was the story of a bunch of a shelter for abused women. They ran out of money, and they were kicking all the women to the street. And the women were all hysterical because they wouldn't go back to the abuser, but they couldn't live on the streets, and they were scared to death. And I remember I was watching this story, totally distracted, which is what I wanted. But I said something, Brad, you got stuff written all over your walls. I can tell you the 4 biggest words on my wall. They're the reason when my friends say, why don't you retire? It's these 4 words. I was watching the story, and I said, man, they should help those women. And I changed the channel to football. And then I changed it back because a thought occurred to me. If everybody that sees a problem in the world says, man, they should feed those kids, they should help those women, who's helping those women? Nobody, because everyone's sitting there watching TV saying they should help those women. So I stood up and I had an epiphany moment. I stood up and I wrote on my wall, and it's still there today. I wrote, there is no they. They don't help those women, you do. And all of a sudden, the money I hated 10 minutes ago I've never been happier that I worked harder than all of my friends and finished the job and executed, because all of a sudden, I don't hate that money anymore. That money is going to save those women. And if I didn't do that work, I couldn't do this now. And so I actually anonymously, I did not want to be in the story. The story can't be internet guy saves women. The story is we need to provide shelter for abused women because they can't get out of the situation if there's nowhere to go. So I did this in cash anonymously. I delivered a bag of cash. But I paid for the house. I paid for the next year or two's worth of expenses. I gave them money for security cameras. And when I turned on the news that night, all the women were crying. And the news reporter said, this time it's tears of joy. And she said, what happened? And I parked my car down the street and I walked to the house with a gym bag with all the money, basically, with a bag. And so they wouldn't know who it was. But the woman said, it was a miracle. This man just came in here and paid for the house. And so I turned and I wrote something else on the wall behind me. I wrote, your success is someone else's miracle. And it changed my life because I never thought of it that way. And instead of hating money, I could not wait to go build another profitable business because there's somebody else's miracle we could create. And since then, all our companies, we have quarterly projects. We have a community fund. Every quarter, I take a % off the top of the money we make. So it's a triple bottom line. Because my employees know if they don't run a good business, we don't make any money. And if we don't make money, we can't help people. But the more money we make, the more money goes in the fund. And I let them, every quarter, I say, go find someone in this city that needs help and help them. And that was one of the reasons my employees said they never quit. Because they get to drive by women's shelters that their work built. By the way, when my employees said to me, this news was all over that it was some anonymous guy that saved the women's shelter. And one of my employees was talking to me, and she was looking at me in the eyes, and she's like, it was you, wasn't it? And I was trying to lie, and I couldn't. She ran down the hall and got the whole team and said, our boss did that. It was Jeff, was the mystery guy. And when they came in the office, they all said, you did this? And a thought occurred to me right then. I said, no, you did this. And they're like, what do you mean we didn't do this? I said, the only reason I have profits is because I have the best damn team on the planet. So you did this. And you could practically see their heart swell. Like the girl in front of me put her hand over her chest and she said, I guess we did do this. And it's going to make me cry again now. She had tears in her eyes. And every day on the way to work now, for the rest of the time before we sold that company, she would drive past the things we built. We built homes for 4 people in the tenements whose house burned down with the money one quarter. She would drive past that house, look at what she did with her hard work, and then go to work. And every day when she walked in, she would say, I am so fired up to work here today and to service our customers and to build great products and to generate profits because there's some other family in town we're going to help next quarter. That changed everything for me, and it changed everything for employees to find out there was a relationship between hard work and helping the people around you. There's no shame in life in making money. The shame in life is in not using it to help other people.
There you go. I agree with that. Huh? See, most people's story would have ended with, why the fuck you writing on the wall? How you get, now I got to paint.
It's still there.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, helping other people. Coincidentally, I thought I was telling you guys earlier, what made me start my company was helping people. I think it's just, like you said, DNA. You just want to help other people. I didn't want to up till 30 years old. I was just trying to get rich. It was all about me. I didn't really care. When I closed the deal, it had nothing to do with win-win. I wanted the commission. And then after 30, accidentally, I just started trying to help other people. And that's when opportunity really came.
But the good news is you get to do both, right?
Now.
Right. Because people used to think that, in fact, that's another thing. One of my business partners is Pitbull, the rapper. And one of the things that
what's his real name?
It's
Colson?
Armando Christian Perez. So the conversation we were having one day, because when Armando came to me, he said, I did pretty well in the music biz, which he has, right? Not many people get to that level. But the reason when he first reached out, and I said, why do you want to talk to me? And he said, because I want to make the rest of my life count. I want to do something that's bigger than music. I want to have a legacy, right? And so I showed him one of the other things that I'd also written down one day when it occurred to me. Everybody's working to be successful, like it's the goal, the destination. Success is not a destination. It's a platform that enables you to actually do the stuff that matters. And the day I figured that out, success was never the end. It was the start for me. My life got good when I figured out. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the studio. That's the starting point. It's the platform that you finally got to a place where you can do something that matters. That's the reason to be.
That's right.
I want to make sure our listeners know that was actually the live studio audience. That was not a sound effect, that last one.
That's right.
It really does make a difference. So it's cool to work really hard and then be able to do something with that.
Well, I think that's a motivating factor or should be for everybody. Because I'll bet you there's a lot of people that are on their way up. They're going to get that money, and they're going to learn that the hard way. And some of them aren't going to learn it at all.
Yeah, some of them don't. There's no question about it.
You know, there's rich people that commit suicide.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you had all that money. Why would you commit suicide? That's why. Because they didn't get that answer. They didn't find that.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the new definition of success.
I think that's why I've been dragged out. I should have been a billionaire long ago. I mean, I guarantee you.
But you are a billionaire in other ways.
Money, yes, but they're
making. But not the only way to count wealth.
Well, that's true. But someone's making me wait just I learned those damn rules because I'm just learning them, and now all of a sudden, shit tons of money starting to pour in. I'm like, yay! About time, damn it!
The universe is a little smarter than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
So it might know exactly what its plan is for you.
Now, do you believe in laws of attraction or any of that?
Big time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You get from the universe, you get back the energy you put out. So the same thing happens, right? All the people in this room with us today all wound up the same place at the same time for a reason. I 100% believe in the law of attraction.
Now, I talked to a Buddhist hot dog vendor once. He said, let me make you one with everything.
I don't know what a Buddhist hot dog is.
A Buddhist hot dog vendor.
I know. Can't even believe you answered that.
He said, let me make you one with everything.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin
That's my dad joke.
You can do the want now.
That's my dad joke. Like last night, someone broke in my house, stole all my antidepressants. I hope they're happy. Anyway, I'll save my stand up for another time. So, laws of attraction. Did you said your habits? You know, what kind of habits do you find everyone should adopt?
Ones that. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I was talking about friends of mine that are athletes that practice. Habits are your equivalent of an athlete going to practice every day, right?
Yeah.
The world's best athletes still practice every single day. And you should too. Whatever your career field is, you should practice. And practice means developing habits, right? And they have to be habits. I'll give you an example of one of mine. I made up a name for it. I call it info sponging. I was studying the world's most successful people, asking this question. What are they doing that everybody else isn't? Why are some people uber successful, mega successful, and other people aren't? They must be doing something different. So I started many years ago studying people like that to see one of the things that they're doing that everybody else isn't is they are processing a much broader slice of the world than everyone else. If you were in healthcare, you would spend all your day doing healthcare stuff. That's what you do for a living, right? And that's what you'd look at. You'd be studying the industry, you'd be going to healthcare conferences. But I noticed these successful people take time to go see what the entire rest of the world is doing, and then they come back to healthcare with all those thoughts. So here's a process I just made up, but it's what I do. I call it info sponging. I challenge myself to learn one new thing every day that I do not need to know. I don't even know why I'm learning it, okay? The idea is to pick up great ideas from people that you would never look at, industries you would never study, and places you would never look. So every day, it might be, today it was sitting in a conference room with you, okay? Sitting and talking to you in your conference room. It might be a conversation. It might be a video you watch. It might be an article you read. But whether it's a person, an article, video, learn one new thing every day. And at the end of that day, I usually, when I leave, I write down one line. What did I just learn from that person or that article I read? Most of the time, I look at these things and I was like, I have no idea what this means. But you know what happens? If you think of knowledge and experiences, think of them, you know, in truth, your life is just this journey where you keep collecting puzzle pieces. But if you want to make a good life, you got to take puzzle pieces are every person you met and every experience you ever had, good or bad. Every one of those is another piece of your puzzle. What you have to learn to do is take those pieces, put them on the table in front of you, push them around and say, why are these my pieces? Why did this bad thing happen? Why did these good things happen? Why did Jennifer come into my life? Why did all these pieces happen? Move them around because the picture they will make one day is your life. Knowledge. So what I do is I intentionally go out and learn one new thing a day. And that piece of knowledge, again, if I gave you a piece of a puzzle right now and I said, Brad, what is this? You'd say, dude, you gave me something blue. Who knows? If I gave you 2 or 3 puzzle pieces, you wouldn't know. But if every day, every time I saw you, I took a piece out of that puzzle box and every day you moved them around, one day you'd call me and say, Jeff, I don't need any more pieces. I figured it out. This is going to be a castle in the Irish countryside. That is how the world's most brilliant people work with knowledge. They collect disparate ideas from all over the world. They push them around and they say, oh my God, I just figured out something nobody ever would have thought of because I'm mixing ideas in a way no one ever mixed them before. So that, I call that info sponging, just collecting bits of info. That's one of my habits I do every day. So later when people have said, you've come up with more than one good idea in your life, I say, yeah, because I practice ideas. That's literally one of the drills I do every day, like batting practice. I do idea practice. So the odds of me finding something cool that no one else has seen yet are higher than other people because I do that habit.
Good daily habit. Sense. Yeah, it sure did. I want to know about cabin fever. How'd you get cabin fever?
So I had to take a break from tech. I was burned out after 5 tech companies, and I wanted to exercise the right side of my brain, which is entertainment. I'm a huge consumer of entertainment, music, movies, less in sort of scripted television. But anyway, so the first thing I did was I started a music company because I love being around it. But here's the real reason, right? Don't be afraid of failure. Be afraid of never trying. And I love music, and I wanted to be around music. And one day I went to a concert, and I was like, it'd be cool if I could just produce concerts, because then I'd be at a concert every night. What if I produced a tour? I'd be on tour, right? And all my friends laughed, said, you don't know anything. You're not a musician. You're an engineer. You don't know anything about it. And I was like, yeah, but I'm a good learner. So I'm going to apply the core principles, like they're in the book Scale, how to build a business. And I'm going to take them with my lifelong thirst for learning, which is one of the most important habits, intellectual curiosity. Be curious. Wonder about stuff. Pick up shiny objects every day. Don't walk by them, okay? But don't do it all the time. You'll never finish anything. That's what I'm saying. Schedule 15 minutes a day. I get to pick up every shiny object for 15 minutes, then I have to go back to work. But I do it every day, and one day I'm going to find something. So that same way, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go study the music biz, even though everybody told me I'm wasting my time. Because you know it'd be really epic if I was producing concerts and tours. So I did a startup. I used the entrepreneurial skills. I studied the music. I wrote cold emails to people and music producers. 99% of the people don't answer, and then one day someone does. And you're like, can I buy you lunch? I just want to learn about music. And then you're in because they introduce you to a friend and they introduce you to a friend. So that led to, Brad, we launched a music company and we wound up doing tours with NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears. I did concerts with Elton John. We did some Beyonce. And I took time off and I was on a tour bus, touring with bands and having the time of my life, right? And I'm a software engineer. And that process is what led to us producing a jazz album that we won a Grammy for. And then one day I'm standing on the red carpet at the Grammys. And then the insane part is we get nominated for Best Jazz Album and we win. And then I'm on the red carpet and all the paparazzi are taking your picture, which is silly as hell because I'm a software engineer. And somebody yells out, Jeff, how do you feel at this moment? And I said on the red carpet at the Grammys, I said, this is the dream of software engineers everywhere. And they're like, what? And the whole red carpet's like quiet. And the little earpiece guy says, you're just killing the vibe on the red carpet. Please leave. And I was like, whatever, thanks. Inside joke. But it's because I'm never afraid to fail. I'm afraid to spend my whole life wondering what I could have been. So that's what happened after music. The music thing worked. And so the creative process of turning a cool idea into a movie, when you go watch a movie, it was someone's idea and now it's a movie you're watching. And I was like, I wonder what that process is like. So by the same token, right, being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and trying to build an airplane on the way down. So I spent my whole life just jumping off of cliffs and wondering what might happen next. And so I jumped off that cliff. I said, what the hell, I'll just start a film company and we'll see what happens. I actually went out to LA, found a place to live and started my own, just a little startup production company. And a friend of mine had been to film school, which I had not. And my premise was the reason that most independent films are not in a theater near you is because they're all artists and filmmakers and none of them are business people. And friends of mine that know business do not have creative skill. And I was like, you know what's the secret to success? I need to have an equally respected blended team. Artists respect business people respect artists. Everyone shake hands and agree that none of us will make it without each other, which is not how it typically works. And we did that. So my friend that had gone to film school had never made a film. His name was Eli Roth. And Eli had never made a movie. I had never made a movie. We teamed together. I started a little production company out there. Eli wrote Cabin Fever. So we wrote it, produced, directed, filmed it. I financed it. We did we're all in it. We just made a movie, a home horror movie. But we had a few skills. Eli's actually pretty good at horror. I don't know if you've seen the work he did in Hostel.
Like my son's a Eli Roth fan, big time.
All right. So Eli turned out to be pretty good at this, but he'd never made a movie. And I was like, you focus on the creative. You pick up the camera and the lens and the sunlight and the actors. I will do the business. I'll get this thing financed. I'll handle all the legal and business stuff, permits and budgets. And then when you're done with the movie, you go into editing and I'll handle marketing, distribution, and promotion. So we formed a team and we followed all the disciplines that any startup should use. I don't buy the argument that everyone gave me, well, this is the film industry. No, it's a startup, right? We still have a product created by domain experts sold to a target audience. How is that different than any other product? It's not. That was our thesis. And so we went out and worked in music. So we started the film company. We did Cabin Fever that Eli wrote. Like I said, we're all in it. We shot it, directed. I told you, a marketing guy. We did pretty well at that. We did our own guerrilla marketing. We actually made stickers of bloody bandages that we stuck rogue in the middle of the night all over cities like New York City. We got in trouble from the police. We had to pay fines. The fines were roughly 1/100th of the cost of renting the billboard when we illegally stuck our stickers on the billboard and had to remove them, which we never had to remove them because our fans removed them. Anyway, we did guerrilla marketing. We did distribution deals. We sold that movie in 49 countries and it grossed over $100 million. And we spent $1.3 million on it. It was really fun. And the movie it's not a great movie. It's a fun movie, but it's our sense of humor in a horror flick and Eli's writing and twisted sense of horror. But people liked it. And when we did our premiere, Quentin Tarantino showed up at our premiere. So Eli and we took the guy out to dinner, and kind of the rest is history. That's dinner. That's what ultimately led to Inglourious Bastards and a bunch of other things that happened. And Eli, I didn't want to make movies for the rest of my life. I wanted to learn how. Eli wanted to make movies, so we launched his career, and he's still doing it.
Yeah,
that was the story. It was fun. It was learning. The worst that could happen would not be failing. The worst that could happen would be every time you go to a movie theater for the rest of your life, you wonder if that could have been you. And so that's what I want your listeners to hear. Give yourself a shot. Failure's okay. Spending your whole life wondering what you could have been is not.
Dude, it's crazy that you say that because, again, and Manny's been around here prior, so he can vouch. Like I always said, one of these days I'm just going to go make movies because growing up I wanted to be a movie star. Got, basically jacked out of a role.
You still have the hair for it, though. You still have movie star hair, so yeah. Still good.
Yeah. Well, you invented Priceline. I invented Hairline. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go do that. Now, I hope I can run into an Eli and get the people on the team around me. But I just figure you're going to have a great souvenir for your family. Or people are going to freaking love it.
You're right. Either way. But here's the thing. Even failure, right? Even failure is still living. When we are out there, running and gunning and trying and jumping off cliffs, I would tell my team, you know what? Even if we fail, we're going to have a hell of a story and everyone else is still going to be in their cubicle, right? Because I said that starting with that job I hated that I left.
Yeah.
And I was like, so even failure is still a story. And even when it wasn't going well, I was like, man, at least I'm out here living. Taking risks is electrifying. And if jumping off cliffs without an airplane scares you, run. Don't walk. Run away from entrepreneurship. But if it thrills you, you're in the right place. It's a DNA thing. So the thrill of the unknown excites me. If someone told me what the whole rest of my life is going to look like now, I would say, well, then you can just go ahead and kill me now because I've already seen it, right? That's DNA. Entrepreneurial DNA is the fact that we don't know all the answers is part of what makes this exciting every day we get up. When someone says, we don't know what we're going to do, I was like, cool, because now I'm on fire, right? We don't know what to do, and I got to figure it out, and the clock is ticking. That's how I want my day to feel. Everybody doesn't like that. and that's okay. So even when you try and fail, like you said, the souvenir is a great story. It's like, I've had the ones we failed. I was like, remember that time we thought this was a good idea? And we're all like, how did we ever think that was a good idea? We were idiots. We've had some unbelievably dumb ideas that failed miserably, and they turn into stories. Do I wish they had succeeded? Of course, right? We don't celebrate failure, but we shake it off. In the end, if you don't have I used to tell my team, I've had people that work for me for 4 companies. When we failed, I said, here's the deal. You can take Saturday off to cry all day. Sunday, you can drink all day. But Monday, shake it off and come back in the office because I got another idea. We'll just pick it up and try again. And that's an entrepreneurial DNA. Shake it off and start over and get over it. Everybody's laughing at you. Funny that you said something about haters, because all those people that are laughing at you, when I launched the music company, we were doing this big Elton John concert, and everybody I know, hey dude, can we get some tickets to Elton John? Can we meet Beyonce? I remember that one when we had the Beyonce deal. Can I go backstage and meet Justin Timberlake? But I remember the Elton John one because everybody wanted tickets. And I said, really, you want tickets to the concert that will never happen, for the company that will never exist, for the idea I had that you told me was stupid and it's just a crazy dream? That's the tickets you want? And they're like, we never said that. I was like, hell you didn't. Every one of you laughed. Every one of you said this will never work, and now y'all want tickets. So what I wound up doing, and it's also written on my wall, you know what you do with your haters? You don't say to them, no, you're not getting tickets. You know what you do? You upgrade your haters to VIP. You say, you know what? Sure, not only can you have tickets, but I'm going to spot you VIP. Enjoy the show. Upgrade your haters to VIP is the best revenge you can ever get. And I learned that lesson. By the way, another friend that's a rapper is Nelly. And Nelly, no, I'm not going to rap on your show, but I have to share the lyrics because Nelly and I were talking about this, and he has this line in a song about haters. And the words, again, I can't rap it, and Nelly would kill me if I did. But the words are, he says, so many people straight doubted my flow. They said that I was a failure. Now the same motherfucker is asking me for dough. Do you know this line from the song? I'm sorry I used the non-radio version.
Go ahead.
That's it. He said, so many people straight doubted my flow. They said that I was a failure. Now the same motherfucker's asking me for dough. And I'm saying, I can't help you. And then, Nelly, can we get some tickets for your next show? And then in the song, he goes, hell no. And he says, just kidding. You can go. So he actually wrote that. All the people that doubt you are the first ones in line for your concert. That's just life, right? So when people laugh at you, shake it off and keep going, because those are going to people one day, they're going to show up and ask for tickets to your concert. It's just the way the life works. Yeah. You just get over it.
Yeah, good one. Folks, you guys got a real treat today. Shit, it's already an hour and 3 minutes. I feel like, well, I mean, we can keep going. Like, shit, we can do a 9-hour deal with you, especially with the stories, because people love stories.
It's the way that I learn, so it's the way that I speak.
Yeah, but you're also good at it.
Well, thank you.
You like paint the picture.
I do that, like I said, because that's the way that I learn. If people can't paint a picture and I'm a very visual person and definitely a visual learner. So if I can't sort of envision it and see it, I don't really get it or I don't believe it. So I kind of evolved to talking that way because I started to realize it's a pretty effective way. I've had a lot of times when I've told a story and people said, now I totally get that. So hearing that feedback, I try to share ideas that way.
So is it easier to start businesses? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I'm interested to hear your answer. Is it easier to start businesses once you have a shit ton of money?
Yes and no. My immediate answer to you is it's easier to start businesses once you have a shit ton of experience, even if you don't have money, because money doesn't buy scars in the same way, right? Throwing a bunch of money at a problem. I've seen many companies that raised zillions in funding, and how did they fail? They failed because mentorship, scars, and experience, again, that's why we launched our advisory company, is way more valuable than money is. Money isn't the scarcest resource in the world. Talent is. And so my answer is experience, mentorship, right? Scars, that's money can't buy that. Only experience.
Well, your prices must be shit tons because everyone's going to want, obviously, your advice and your advisory, not a consulting, but advisory. I don't know the difference, by the way. You're going to have to share with me.
You have to dress nicer when you're an advisor. When you consult, and you can just go in jeans.
Oh.
That's the only
But there's
difference.
probably a ton of people reaching out to you after starting that, so your prices must be way high.
Yes and no. There are bigger deals and bigger organizations that you price for value, right?
Well, you only have so much time.
Right. You have to, there's a value of time, and there's a value that we already know we're going to deliver because we've done it for companies we've worked with. And so we're figuring out that price point. But I will say this, we have a big soft spot. A lot of times I have focused much more on people than on the business or the money. So there are times where there's somebody that, we used to have on one of my other previous websites, when somebody said, what's your criteria for working with you? We actually put on the website, I said, I work with people I fall in love with. And I didn't expect my team to put that on the website. And because a lot of times I say, we need to help her. She's amazing. She's going to change the world. Love her to death. She's good people. Let's just help her. And then they'll come back and say, we can't pay Jeff Hoffman. We can't pay your price. And we wind up saying, fine, we'll just do it anyway. So a lot of times our focus is much more on people we love than it is on profit. But we have to use price as a gate because all day long people just ask me to do stuff.
Sure.
We have this running little joke where I hang up the phone and I say, did you need me to come do your laundry too? Because you just asked me to do everything for you, right? They're just not respectful of people's time. Time is the only thing you got in your life, the only thing you have any control over, and you can't just give it away.
Yeah.
So the pricing is a gate to controlling your time, and it's only a limited amount that we have.
It's a filter.
Well, yeah, it's the filter. And it also tells us if someone's serious.
Yeah.
I've actually had people where I gave them a super high price tag, and they said, okay. And I said, fine, I'll do it for half. And they said, we said yes. I said, I was just testing you, right? I was testing to see if you were respecting our value and our time. And if you're willing to pay it, I'll make it better for you. But yes, we're pricing our value, and it's based entirely, everyone's a case-by-case basis.
And you're still limited, period.
Yeah,
it's not that scalable, you and your advisor.
Our team, we work with a very limited number of companies at a time.
So where do they go if, like, I know there's going to be 1,000 minimum people slam down your phones, because I got in the bomb squad some entrepreneurs, and they'd be stupid not to freaking at least reach out and see if they qualify, if you got time, even if it is affordable. And by the way, I always like to say, boy, that must be expensive, because people always think that way. It's expensive not to reach out.
That's
right. How much are you going to lose by not doing it?
We completely agree that.
But so regardless, even if it's $1 billion, and it's still worth it, because you'll be worth 10 billion. Point being is, you only have so much time. So is it like first come, first serve? When people hear this, when this episode drops, what should they do?
It is most definitely first come, first serve, but that doesn't mean you're going to get served, because we still go through and see if they're the kind of people we want to work with. Yeah. You want to spend your day, I actually don't drink beer, but you want to spend your day with the kind of people you'd want to have a beer with, the kind of people you'd want to hang out with.
You drink anything?
So I don't really drink much at all.
Don't drink at all? Not even wine?
A little bit. Sometimes.
Smoke cigars?
I don't.
No vices?
I smoke cigars on special occasions.
Which is every single day.
That's a whole different. We don't have another hour, buddy. But I don't drink much. No.
Well, we'll have you back on a second episode.
So
how about that?
I would be honored, my friend. It's JH Advisory, or did we spell it out? It's JeffHoffmanAdvisory.com. JeffHoffmanAdvisory.com. You
also can follow him on Instagram, social media, at Speaker Jeff Hoffman. You do a lot of speaking, masterminds, stuff like that?
We do that all over the world. We teach scale, we teach entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. Those are the ones that I do. A lot of motivational speaking. Now we're doing it on Zoom, but since COVID started, I've given motivational talks in 110 countries now, because it's a little easier when you don't have to fly there. We have a heavy focus as well on the motivational speaking on youth, trying to prepare the next generation of kids to run a world a little better than my generation did, which is not a very high bar. Like we did an event just 2 Fridays ago that we called it Teen Tech Live. Remember what you said about people in technology? We were introducing, honestly, it was brown and black teenagers all over the country, right? So it was for, my underserved kids, underrepresented kids. But I did the keynote that I did live on the air, and we had 20,000 teenagers, black and brown kids from all over the United States, join us live on the air to talk about careers in tech, to give them an educational path out of the lives that they're living, out of the place they live, and to give them a path to just build a better life and take care of their families. So we do a lot of the speaking I do is focused on youth as well, because that's just a really important passion. I do a lot for women's groups around the world as well. So we do a lot to try to help level the playing field for people. Not that anybody ever handed me anything, but other people are starting at a worse off starting point than I was, right? Everything I ever got, I went and worked for and earned, but other people didn't even, at least I got to start. Some people don't even know where to start or that they could start. They're not even given the message that you can be something with your life. Give it a shot. They're given negative messages in the environment they live in. That's why we spend a lot of time working with youth and with women and with underserved communities. In fact, quick note, and I want to say this just in case people are still hurting out there. One of the things we did during COVID was we discovered so many entrepreneurs and small business owners were not getting the government PPP money. We got real data. So 91% of all Latino-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses in the U.S. that applied for government grant money didn't get it. 89% of Black-owned businesses, 88% of women-owned businesses. So we launched our own.
Didn't get it.
Didn't get the money. And they were dying, all these small businesses in America, because of being shut down by COVID. So we launched our own grant program. We, as my organization, GEN, Global Entrepreneurship Network, and friends of ours, it's an organization founded by two women, one also Latina, called Hello Alice, to help small businesses. We put together a grant program, and we have just been giving out anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 cash to small business owners in America just to save them. It's not a grant. You don't have to pay us back. It's not government money. It's money we put together to try to help Americans in the way the government doesn't. If people listening need help, it's called Business for All, and you can find it there. It's COVID19businesscenter.com. So that's another thing. In fact, you will see the TV commercials are Pitbull and I. He did the public service announcements with me, and we're talking about there is no they. Somebody's got to help people. It's the same reason that he builds schools in the inner cities, right, that we work with, because no one's going to give those kids a better education, so we just do that stuff privately. I'm just saying that because if there's people that need help, reach out to us, apply, and we'll get money to you if we can.
There is no they. And you need to add something to your wall.
It's on you.
And everyone don't know shit. Okay? Because everyone said you ain't going to make it, and look at that. Everyone don't know shit.
You just can't listen to that. You just can't listen to them.
Folks, you guys better follow this dude. Again, I mean, I've been around. I haven't heard of you. I think you're a top kept secret. We didn't even get to a fraction of it. Let me ask you a question, then I'll let you go. You believe in keeping your word? Should you keep your word in life?
I don't think you have much else that you can do.
So if anybody's out there,
keep your word, then you have nothing else and you mean nothing else. It's of paramount importance.
So you would agree that you must keep your word in life.
This feels like a setup, Brad, but keep going.
No, I just wondering if you agree to that.
I agree to that.
All right, so can I get your word that you'll come back for a second episode?
That's an invitation I will definitely accept. Yes, sir. I would be honored to come back. I very much enjoyed this.
And I'm sure people will want that, folks. Until next time, go follow him at Speaker Jeff Hoffman. Go to his website, jeffhoffman.com. Go to jeffhoffmanadvisory.com. Go to the help place you just mentioned. Mention that again, because if someone's out there struggling, they can go here.
Go to COVID19businesscenter.com and look for a thing we call them Business for All grants. It's just money to help you stay alive during COVID. We're trying to help the people that need it most. And we've been thrilled to be able to rescue a lot of people who couldn't feed their family during this time. It's important. And we appreciate people that have said, how can we help? And we've said, the more money we collect, the more we can give out. So we've also had people that have made donations to this to help keep American businesses alive. We're about to go global with it. Right now, it's only American because we had to get it up and running with our team. But thank you. And my Twitter is also just Speaker Jeff.
You guys go follow this dude. I'm telling you, I will. And until next time, keep it real.
Dropping bombs with the real Brad Lee. Subscribe now.